So you have 24 hours to memorize a script. You've been given the script, you've been given the sides, and you have 24 hours before the audition. How in the world are you gonna get this thing memorized in that short of a time? I'm here to show you. Let's find out. Okay guys, so this is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. Back in high school, I had a couple of plays I had to act in where I had to memorize a lot of lines. I played a Cyrano in Cyrano de Bergerac, and I played as Mr. Darcy in Pride and Prejudice, okay? And both of those had very thick scripts, okay? So in practicing for those and in learning the scripts, I developed a series of techniques that make it very easy to memorize a lot of lines in a short amount of time, such as if you have an audition in a couple days, okay? In addition to that, so I'm gonna be sharing those with you guys. In addition to that, I did a lot of research in preparation for this video on just looking at different blogs, different videos online of line memorization tips. I kind of sifted through the best ones. I tested all of them on Act 2, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet. So I'm gonna be sharing the ones that I found that worked the best in this video for you guys. So we're gonna be getting into that, so stay tuned. If you like this content, for more acting memorization tips, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below, and let's get into it. Okay, so when it comes to learning your lines, I like to divide this into two parts. So we have memorizing your lines, and then we have actually recalling your lines, okay? So they're two different things. So the first tip when it comes to memorizing your lines is you have to practice, okay? You just gotta grind, you gotta get in there, you gotta put in the work. If you have 24 hours before this audition, you need to be spending 23 of those hours practicing, rehearsing your lines. On the way to the audition, hire an Uber and practice in the back seat. I mean, there's just no better way to make progress in your script than practice. So practice your lines, that's tip number one. Tip number two is act your lines, okay? So what I mean by acting your lines is a lot of times when we approach a script, what we do is we do the following. Okay, so let's take from Act 2, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet. Let's take this first line. So, he just said scars that never felt a wound, but soft, what light through yon window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, kill the envious moon. Okay, so this is how most of us practice our lines, right? We'll read through line by line, and we kind of read it with a monotone voice. What I want you to do is I want you to act your lines, okay? And what I mean by that is this. I want you to approach your lines like this. He just said scars that never felt a wound, but soft, what light through yon window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, kill the envious moon. Right, okay, so it's not perfect, but you get the idea. So we're acting our lines in addition to reading our lines. And there's a few reasons we want to do this. The first reason is when you act your lines, it makes the process of practicing more enjoyable, okay? And if you're enjoying yourself, your mind can focus and stay engaged on what you're doing. And if you're engaged on what you're doing, you can practice for a longer period of time without getting burnt out, okay? So that's the reason that we want to do it. I'm sure we've all been in that situation where we're reading our lines, a paragraph of them over and over, and we're technically practicing the lines because we're reading the words over and over, but our mind is a million miles away, right? We're thinking about the argument that we had with our girlfriend last week. We're thinking about what we're gonna be eating for lunch. We're thinking about how little time we have until the audition, right? So that's not helping anybody. So acting your lines helps you break out of that, okay? The second reason that we want to act our line is that it gives us several more ways to memorize our lines, okay? So if we're just practicing our lines word by word, and and that's all that we know the lines by. If we forget the words of our lines, that's it, we're done, right? We don't remember them. But if we act our lines, now what we're doing is we're coupling emotion with the line itself, okay? And with the emotion, we're coupling the audible sound of our voice as we're speaking our lines, okay? So now we have three ways to remember our lines. So if we forget the words, we can still remember the emotion that went along with those words, and we can still remember the audible sound of the words, right? so that we'll be less likely to forget them. Now, I'm sure some of you are probably thinking to yourself this question: if I act my lines, aren't I in a sense committing to a certain delivery style that I might have to change later on? And the fact of the matter is, yes, you are committing to a delivery style, and you very well may have to change that later on at a different date. But what I want to suggest to you is the following. That probably happens a lot less than you think it does, okay? So I would say probably for 90% of your lines, you're gonna be able to keep the delivery style that you choose early. And maybe for 10% of your lines, you will have to change them later on, okay? But when you do have to change your lines later on, you're gonna know them so well that when it comes time to change them, because you acted your lines, you're gonna be much better off, and you're gonna be able to change your delivery style very quickly because you know them inside and out, okay? So if you have that question, I wouldn't worry about it. In all of my acting experience, I've never had a time where I wasn't able to change my delivery style because I committed early to acting the lines. Okay, so the third memorization tip I have for you is something I like to call stacking, okay? And I'm going to demonstrate the process with Act 2, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet, okay? So we're gonna take the first line. What we do is take the first line and we say this: he jested scars that never felt a wound, right? And then we're gonna take it away from ourselves and we're gonna say, he jested scars that never felt a wound, okay? Then we go to the second line, but soft, what light through yon window breaks? Okay, then I'm gonna go back to the first line and repeat it, and then repeat the line that I just said, okay? So, he jested scars that never felt a wound, but soft, what light through yon window breaks? Okay, then I go to the third line, it is the east, and Juliet is the sun. He jested scars that never felt a wound, but soft, what light through yon window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Okay, so you see what I'm doing? What I'm doing is, I'm taking the line that I just memorized and I'm stacking it with all of the previous lines, okay? So what this does for you is it basically allows you to practice your beginning lines way more than you normally would if you were just taking it line by line, right? Because you're repeating the first lines more than once, okay? And in addition to that, so you're gonna basically benefit from practicing those lines more. And in addition to that, what it does is it allows your brain to recognize it as kind of a more natural speech pattern, right? If you take it line by line, it is kind of disjointed and it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But if your brain recognizes, hey, this is a sentence that he's saying, and hey, this is a paragraph that sentence is contained in, and hey, this is a part of a larger conversation that we're having about something, right? Then it's easier for your brain to recognize it and remember it, okay? So that's stacking. Okay guys, so that's how you memorize your lines. Now we're gonna talk about how to recall your lines, okay? So when we're recalling your lines, there's a really cool trick that I have for you that's gonna help you recall your lines. So what you do is you take the first few words of your line, okay? And you create a picture that helps you remember those words, okay? So in our case, with Act 2, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet, right? He jests at scars that never felt a wound. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create words that represent he jests at scars. And for me, I can imagine aliens from Guardians of the Galaxy surrounding Taserface jesting at his scars by laughing out loud, okay? So they're surrounding Taserface and they're laughing at him essentially because he has a lot of scars on his face, okay? So they jest at scars. So now what you do is you take that picture that represents the first few words of your line, and I want you to imagine that picture at the place on the stage or the set where you're supposed to be when you say that line, okay? If you're using a prop in that location, I want you to picture the words on that prop, okay? If you're talking to a person at that location, I want you to imagine the words maybe on their shoulder or their head or their nose or something that'll help you remember the lines, okay? So what this does is it serves not only as a cue to your next line, whatever it is, but it also serves as a cue to where you're supposed to be when you say that line, okay? So it's very effective. If you have multiple lines that you're supposed to be saying in that location, then just take multiple pictures and put them in that spot, okay? And there's usually enough, what I find is there's usually enough variability in the scenery of the set and the prop placement and the placement of the actors that you can do this with every one of your lines for the whole play, okay? So you can do this with every one. Okay, but what I want to emphasize is that you don't need to do this for every word of your line, okay? We're just doing this for the first few words of the line. And the reason for that is that if you forget your line, you're probably gonna forget your line not in the middle or at the end of the line. You're probably gonna forget the line at the beginning, right? So this is kind of like a mnemonic technique that shortcuts that tendency, okay? So, cool trick for you. Okay guys, so there you go. How to memorize your lines in under 24 hours. If you put in the work, I want to wish you the best of luck with this. We're all rooting for you. I know you can do it. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel below, like this video, and go break a leg. And Juliet is the sun.